Welcome back to EDH Deck Building. I am your host, Demo, and the moment that we have all been waiting for patiently for the past 5 or 6 months or something like that has finally arrived. Wizards of the Coast is starting to release information now that they've taken over the format. Of course, they're making the rules and they're going to be making quite a few changes. I mean, buckle up, everybody, because here it comes. I think there's going to be a lot of changes coming up in the next couple of months. And I'm just going to be reacting to it like I normally would. Again, there was a stream that Gavin Verhey did on Twitch. I caught, the tail end of it. I didn't see the start, so I might have missed some stuff. Mostly they were introducing proposed power brackets, which is mostly what I'm going to be talking about in this video. Just reacting to it in real time. I just got the message from one of my patrons on the Discord that, hey, here's the new power brackets that they're proposing. And of course, as I have said so much on my channel before, I am not the biggest fan of the idea. I don't think it's going to work. Okay. I know people, here goes Demo complaining again. I am just pointing out the issues that you might have. The main purpose, I think, and what a lot of people will be looking forward to is these power brackets are going to solve that issue. The issue of I go to my LGS on a Friday night to play Commander and I get stomped by a guy with a super powerful deck. The power brackets are going to solve that problem, and I don't think that it is all I'm saying. I don't think all the people getting real excited about this because, yay, I can finally have a fun casual Commander game. I don't think this is the answer. And I haven't really looked at this yet. Again, I'm reacting to this in real time here, just like you guys are. I know a lot of people will give it to me in the comments about how you should be doing your research or whatever. Lots of channels out there that have a direct line to Wizards of the Coast. They probably have Gavin Verhey on speed dial. They can just get all the information. My channel's not for that. All right. I don't have Wizards of the Coast on speed dial. So my channel is going to be a reaction just like you guys. I'm a Commander player, just like you guys. Okay. I love this game, just like hopefully you guys. And I'm giving a reaction just like you guys are, but more to the point. And just like with my analysis with deck building as well, I am going to be picking apart the things that I think don't work, right? The mainstream way of thinking, I'm going to be thinking about it a different way and giving it a different perspective of how, maybe a lot of people aren't looking at it. All right, and here is the proposed brackets. I think it's proposed anyway. I don't know if they're actually going forward with exactly this. I mean, likely this is exactly how it's going to look. It is called Commander Matchmaking System, and it is a beta, so that means, it's still in the test phase, obviously. But, I mean, everything is always evolving. There's not going to be anything written in stone. When you had the rules committee, it was, okay, let's unban this card and ban this card, right? Everything's always changing. That's just how Magic works. So really everything is a beta, but this is essentially and likely going to be the basis for what they're going to use going forward. It looks like there's 5 brackets. And again, I don't even want to call them power brackets because I don't even think they don't call it here power brackets. It's more of a matchmaking system. And again, the intention here, I believe, is to help newer Commander players, more casual Commander players, and all of that try to find matchups. However, we already have a system in place. It's called Rule Zero. There's already a system in place for that, okay? I know this is probably used to help with that, but the guy who wants to pub stomp you in a Commander game so he can feel good about himself or whatever, that guy is still going to be able to do that with this in place, and this is not going to stop that from happening. It might stop it a little bit less. Again, I'm warning. This is a warning to all of the newer Magic players out there, newer Commander players out there, that if you think this system is going to solve the problem, it is not, right? Commander is an inherently casual format, okay? And there's always going to be issues there. This is why Rule Zero is integral to format working, okay? I talked about this recently in a video, and also I talked about it on my Discord about tournaments, and I'm like, Commander tournaments to me don't even make sense. They don't even make sense because, of course, tournaments are inherently competitive. You're trying to win. Winning is the end goal. And in casual Commander, it's not inherently competitive, and in fact, that's why we have CEDH. And as I've said since the beginning of my channel, they should be 2 separate formats. Competitive CDH is the place you want to win. So if you're playing Commander and your end goal is just to win, then why aren't you playing CEDH? That's literally what it is, right? If you're playing casual Commander, then your Main goal should not be just to win. Therefore, tournaments make no sense to me. Again, unless you're just doing it for fun, in which case it's not really a tournament, it really doesn't make sense to me. It's like an oxymoron, right? I had someone comment in a video a while back that CEDH, it's all about the end goal, and how you get there doesn't matter. Whereas with Casual Commander, it's about the journey. I mean, yeah, winning is nice, and I definitely try to win in all my decks, but it's about how did I get there? That's why there's a lot of cards that I don't play in the Commander format, because if I'm just going to cast an Expropriate or an Insurrection or a Rise of the Dark Realms and win the game, it's like, okay, so much for the journey, right? The journey doesn't matter anymore. That's how I build decks. That's how I play Commander. So with that in mind, I'm going to analyze, and again, I haven't really looked at this much. I'm going to analyze their bracket system here. So bracket 1 is called Exhibition. Obviously, it's going to be the bottom tier. It's going to be the most casual power level one, if you want to talk about it that way. Your ultra casual Commander deck. I imagine I have no decks. And again, that's another thing I'm going to be doing here, is throwing out my own decks. I think it's likely that I don't have a lot of decks that would fit into ultra casual, but I could be wrong. So no mass land, denial, or extra turns. Okay, there's something I have in no decks. I don't have any mass land denial, they're calling it. Of course, they're probably calling that because, mass land destruction, Armageddon, all that, which again, I made a video about that. I'm kind of okay with it. I've been in games where people have destroyed all the lands. I still did lots of stuff. I still got mana rocks. I still got creatures in play. The guy with the smothering tithe is going to absolutely go off because nobody can pay for it, right? Mass land destruction is actually really, really hard to use. So is a Blood Moon or a Winter Orb. And I imagine those cards are included in mass land denial as well. And again, this is such a I don't know if they're going to come out with an actual list of cards here, but mass land denial to me is so vague. What does that even mean? Obviously, you can't play Asunder, right? Because that's going to bounce all lands. That's definitely a no-no. Anything that taps lands is definitely a no-no. And land destruction. But again, that being said, even if we're just talking mass land destruction, what is that, right? There's lots of cards that will make you sacrifice lands down to a certain number or something like that. I guess those are probably not allowed. The cards like a Boil or something that goes after a certain land type, obviously that's going to be included in there. But what if I just have like a Strip Mine or a Wasteland, and I do the Crucible of Worlds thing, and I'm just replaying my Wasteland every turn or Strip Mine every turn? I mean, for me personally, and I might already be running into an issue here. For me personally, I have Ghost Quarter or Strip Mine or Wasteland or some effect like that in every Commander deck. It's one of the 6 things every Commander deck needs. In fact, I'm going to be making a video about it right away because I think it is so important in a Commander game. I can't count how many times I'm sitting there winning a game because of the lands I have in play and my opponents can do nothing about it. And funny enough, I also have a Ghost Quarter in play, and I'm just like, man, you guys probably wish you had my Ghost Quarter right now, right? It happens all the time. It is so important to have those effects in your deck. It's crucial, paramount in my opinion. Now, if I also have a Crucible of Worlds in my deck, and I do have a couple of decks with Crucible of Worlds in them, I'm sure a lot of people have, I can get those lands out of my graveyard repeatedly effects. Now, is that going to be in that category? Now I can constantly be strip mining you, wastelanding you, right? So, again, it's super vague. I guess you would have to have a discussion about it. A Rule 0 discussion. Again, to me, this is not fixing anything. The mass land denial thing was already a thing that a lot of people didn't want to see in a Commander game. I will say, just extra turns, like you can't just cast any extra turns spells at all, or any extra turn effects at all. I mean, okay, I definitely don't have a problem with this. By the way, I want to point out, I don't have no problem with, and the more I look at this, the more I'm thinking, man, maybe a majority of my decks are actually a 1. Because I don't have any mass land denial. Again, other than the Ghost Quarter things, and maybe I'll play my Ghost Quarter from my graveyard with my Crucible of Worlds. Maybe, probably not. Other than that, I really have nothing that can be considered mass land denial or mass land destruction. I don't think. I'm quite certain. And I definitely don't have any extra turns. No, I don't have any effect of any kind that can give me an extra turn. I've never been a fan of extra turns in the game of Magic entirely. I think it's something that they should have probably never done. So I definitely don't have that. Okay. No 2-card infinite combos. I don't have any of that either. I already don't. Again, this is the rule. Like, it's a self-policing format. And like I said all the time, I took Dockside out of my deck. I had Dockside Extortionist in one deck. I took Dockside Extortionist out of my one deck before it even got banned, like a year before, because I already realized it's a problem. right? Again, the mass land destruction, it was already the case that you just didn't play mass land destruction in your casual commander decks. It wasn't on the ban list. People just didn't do it anyway. It is a self-policing format. At least it's supposed to be, right? So I'm already falling into this category here, no game changers. And that's going to be the big one. And we'll have to go take a look at it. That's where things will. And again, this is going to get very complicated, guys. Like I said in my year-end review video, there's going to be a lot of people constantly have to look at their phones and check and rating all their decks. And it's really going to make a lot of work. Few tutors. It doesn't even say no tutors, just few tutors. Other than this whole game changers thing, which we'll take a look at that list, all of my decks fall into category number one. I would say, funny enough, I just put my hack-on deck together. And again, here's where things get real confusing. This is why I don't like stuff like this, okay? I just finished putting my hack-on together last month, okay? A deck I should have made a long time ago. I love that commander. And of course, there's a commander. I just made a video about it, so I will talk further about this like next week. I think the video comes out. That commander, you literally can't cast it from the command zone. So of course, there's a couple of, that is such an underwhelming commander, guys, right? It's super hard to build around. So for that reason, I gotta get some important pieces in my deck. And for that reason, I gotta have some tutors in my deck. And again, what's a tutor? Is an expedition map a tutor? I'll just throw that out there. That's the example I always give. Okay, obviously a demonic tutor is a tutor. Is an expedition map a tutor? Yes or no? Some people would say yes, some people would say no. Certainly if someone's going to get their Cabal coffers with their expedition map, a lot of people would think that's a really powerful thing to do in a commander game. For me, I'm going to get my command beacon. And I'm going to get my command beacon because, of course, I need it. And I don't mean need it in the sense of it's really important. I literally need it to get my commander out of the command zone so that I can then discard it so that I can then play it, right? That's a super janky deck. I mean, not super janky. It is. I've made a pretty good deck, I think, with that commander. It's certainly a difficult commander to build around, and I have that's definitely my deck with the most tutors, right? So that's where we kind of get into, and even on the stream, what Gavin Verhey said is that Demonic Tutor is not a game-changing card. It's not a game-warping card, but it is a card that you go get the game-warping things with. Sure, you can, but you can also just go get your command beacon because you need to get your commander to the command zone, right? Again, that's where we get into all these issues of, yeah, Demonic Tutor is considered to be a really powerful card. It is a really powerful card, but I'm just going to get my command beacon so I can actually cast my commander. What's wrong with that, right? Is that not casual? Of course it is. So, and all of that is just rule zero stuff, right? And it's not stuff that fits it nicely into these brackets, I think, right? So if a guy at your LGS is bringing his hack-on deck, he's not going to fit into number one, even though his deck is probably an ultra-casual commander deck, likely. Again, I know some people are pretty excited about this. I'm just pointing out where you might run into some issues is all. Okay, let's take a look at the other thing here, which is what they're calling game changers. And basically, I think they're just, calling these game changers just the really powerful, impactful cards. And for me, these are all cards that are not banned, as far as I can tell, looks like, but are cards that likely I would imagine a lot of people wish were banned. They're cards that essentially people don't like to see in casual commander games. Is just by generally glazing over this list to me, these are cards that are not banned, but most people don't consider them casual, or a good percentage of people don't consider them casual. How many of these do you have in your decks? I don't know. I'm guessing I probably don't have very many. Right? Again, I'm already doing that. I'm self-policing myself and making it so that my decks are already casual using a rule zero sort of mentality, right? And I will also point out, and they alluded to, and of course we already knew this was coming, they're absolutely going to be unbanning cards. They said it was going to be more towards April. That's going to change massively in the future, is the ban list. There will probably be a handful of cards, maybe 5 or 6, that absolutely have to stay on the ban list. Outside of that, it's going to be no holds barred. Once the bracket systems are in place, it's going to be go nuts. And I actually wouldn't even mind if they unbanned like Ancestral Recall, Time Walk, the Moxes, all that. Fine, I don't care. I already don't have an issue with those cards. Obviously, they're super busted, but we already have formats where people are playing those cards, obviously, right? We have people playing cards like that in Vintage. So the fact that they could be played in a higher power level of Commander completely makes sense to me. All right, let's take a look at the game changers for white. Draneth Magistrate, a card I just talked about in the hate list, where I just ranked a bunch of cards that people don't like. And again, it's just one of those things where people just don't like it. I have no problem with a Draneth Magistrate in a commander game at all. I completely understand why they wouldn't want it in the bottom tier, though. I get it. Enlightened Tutor, there's the first card. I have this in 2 decks, and I, funny enough, was just going through my decks the other day because I got some new cards, and I'm like, oh yeah, I got Enlightened Tutor in here. I forgot. I actually used to do this more. I have more and more been taking tutors out of my deck. Like I said, my hack-on deck, which I basically need tutors to get the pieces that I need to get my commander. And I don't have any, I don't have Demonic Tutor, I don't have Imperial Seal, any of the really powerful ones I don't have in there. I got a couple sort of casual ones, like Final Parting, right? So I can get my command beacon and also check something in the graveyard, right? Stuff like that. So I'm already not playing super powerful tutors. Enlightened Tutor would be the one. So there we go. There's the first situation. And again, I think I have it in 2 decks. And both of those decks, I guess, because they are a game changer. I mean, they're it says few tutors, but again, we have few tutors in the category, but also we have tutors in here. So that's more confusion in my opinion. So I have probably 2 decks that are not in bracket 1 simply because of Enlightened Tutor. That's it. That one card cancels it out there for me. Unfortunate. However, I would say the rest of my decks probably fall into category 1. All right, Sarah Sanctum, not a big surprise there. As far as power level goes, and I mean, obviously, we're going to see Gaia's Cradle on the green list. Yep, there it is. I've said before, I mean, there's obviously the 3 lands from Urza block that originally came out, and Tellurian Academy, of course, is banned. It's, I would say, the most powerful version in Commander. In other formats, it's definitely the most powerful version. In Commander, it is the most powerful, but not by much. I would say Gaia's Cradle's not far behind, and then Sarah Sanctum is quite a bit behind that. You really need to be in a specific theme in order for it to be good, but obviously it's a very powerful card. Put more Ghost Quarters in your deck. Again, that's, for me, again, when I see Sarah Sanctum, Gaia's Cradle in a Commander game, I'm just like, I got Ghost Quarter. I mean, I might not draw it, but usually I have 2 or 3 options, Beast Within, Generous Gift. I got lots of ways to destroy lands. That's why you need it, right? Again, for me, the answer is always removal wins games. Even if my opponents are playing these really powerful cards like a Draneth Magistrate or a Sarah Sanctum or a Gaia's Cradle, I got removal, right? I got a Smothering Tithe. I can get rid of that too. Trouble in Pairs, I can get rid of that too. Now we're getting to the case where like Smothering Tithe and Trouble in Pairs are just really, and I literally just watched the MTG Goldfish guys talking about, they made a video entirely about white card draw, because of course that's completely gotten out of hand. And I think it was Seth saying he just puts Trouble in Pairs on all of his decks. All of his white decks have Trouble in Pairs just because it's the best white card draw option. So I guess that means all of his decks aren't a bracket 1 for that reason, right? Because of course that's a game changer. By the way, is it not funny that in the white category we have a white ramp spell and a white card draw option? Just saying. All the people out there that were always complaining about it. But again, cards that I don't play. I already don't play. Again, Enlightened Tutor is the only card that so far that I play here. I don't play Cyclonic Rift. I don't play Expropriate. I don't play Force of Will, Fierce Guardianship, Rhystic Study, Thassa's Oracle, Urza, Lord High Officer. Mystical Tutor, I used to, but I don't play it anymore. Jin Kataxi, I don't play any of those. None. Again, I'm already there. You don't need to ban these cards because I'm already policing myself, right? So these are all cards that essentially you will not see in a bracket 1 game. Really, most of my decks already are falling into bracket 1. I don't have an issue here, but like I said, it's not, and I've said it in a bunch of videos, individual cards is not the issue. I can make a very powerful deck. I can make a very fast deck that's going to close out games super quick. Here's the issue. The issue is, as Magic players always do in every format, we're very inventive. We figure out how to win as fast as we possibly can, okay? You don't want to play against Draneth Magistrate, you just talk. Has anyone got Draneth Magistrate in their deck? Does anyone have, whatever that card is you absolutely loathe? People's brains are broken over Cyclonic Rift. They absolutely hate that card. So just talk with people before. The rule 0. You guys got playing Cyclonic Rift? You are? Okay, I'll go play with somebody else, right? I mean, isn't that how Rule 0 is supposed to work already? Of course, Blue's got a ton of cards on here. Black's got quite a few as well. I've always thought that Blue had the worst card. As far as the cards that people hate, free counterspells, Cyclonic Rift, Expropriate, Blue, yeah, for sure. Black's obviously got some really bad ones. Bolus's Citadel, okay. Demonic Tutor, Imperial Seal, Opposition Agent, Turgid. So now we're dealing with actual commanders in the command zone. I guess Urza and Jin Cataxius are as well. Again, those are commanders where I'm just like, who plays those in the command zone? I guess in a CEDH game, but outside of that, not that you could play Jin Cataxius in a CEDH game. Like, Jin Cataxius should never be in the command zone. It cannot be a viable commander in CEDH. And then also, it's super, super nasty. So who's going to want to play with you when that? Oh, I'm going to play my Jin Cataxius deck. No thanks. See ya. Same with Turgid. I never understood Turgid, not ever, because it's not good enough to be a CDH commander, and nobody wants to play against it in a casual game. So I don't get it. Why is there any decks on EDH Rec for that guy? I don't get it. Vampiric Tutor ad nauseum, of course, which is mostly strictly, again, that's one of those cards, just like Thassa's Oracle. There's certain cards on here, and funny enough, Demonic Consultation is not on here, which is kind of interesting. So ad nauseum and Thassa's Oracle are just kind of like those CEDH only cards, right? Red Jeska's Will, really? Really? Again, that's a card I don't play. I don't think it's that good. I think it's a little overrated, to be quite honest. I mean, it's a ritual effect. It's not even a great ritual effect. There's actually better ritual effects in Commander. It gives you both effects if you're... I don't want to go down too much of the road of this is an overrated card, but it only gives you both effects if you have your Commander in play, and I have many times seen people cast it without their Commander in play, so all it is just not a very good ritual. It's an okay ritual. If you have an opponent with 7 cards in hand, it's 3 mana, gets 7, but sometimes it's not the case, so it's like 3 mana, gets 6. There's better ritual effects. And then the Impulse Draw. I don't like Impulse Draw. Oh, look, I just exiled a bunch of cards off my library that I don't want right now, or that I don't want to cast, and now they're gone forever. There goes my Blasphemous Act. I didn't want to cast it, so it's gone forever. I don't know. I think that card's super overrated, to be quite honest. I don't have it in any decks either. Underworld Breach is a card that I've heard CEDH players again say that it should be only played in a CEDH game, which is kind of interesting. But again, what are you doing with it? Am I comboing off with it? Okay, CEDH. If I'm just using it in my casual mono red deck just to get stuff out of my graveyard, because red doesn't have a lot of recursion options, and I got some important, I'm playing a mono red Painter's Servant deck, and I got to get it out of my graveyard. I use Underworld Breach to do that. What's the problem? I don't have an issue with that, but that sounds like an ultra casual deck to me, but not anymore because you're playing Underworld Breach. Survival of the Fittest. Yeah, I mean, it's just a really powerful card, but I would say it's definitely casual. Vorinclex, big surprise there. Guy's Cradle. Kind of surprising. Green only has 3 cards on here. Multicolored, we have Kinnan, Bonder Prodigy, Eureka, Winota, and Grand Arbiter Augustine. Not a lot of surprises there. Winota, though, maybe a little surprising. Again, this is a case of it's just how people build that deck. Nobody thought Winota should have been banned or not allowed in casual games when they first saw it. It was just because of the way that people were building the deck that people don't really want to see it in casual games anymore. So there is quite a few commanders here. And again, if I'm talking about ultra casual, you guys just think about the amount of where's Tulane? If I'm playing an ultra casual power bracket 1 deck or game, how many commanders do you not want to see? Super powerful command. Where's Voja? Voja's not. I can bring a Voja now. Again, this is what I'm talking about. I can bring a Voja to my ultra casual commander game and stomp people. I can bring a Krenko. Krenko's not on here. I can bring an Edgar Markov. What in these guidelines, none of the guidelines here are telling me that I can't bring Krenko or Edgar Markov or Tulane or any other really, really powerful commander to a the bottom tier here, casual commander game, where some dude's playing his Crab Tribal deck and another guy's playing his Hack-On deck and another guy's playing some, right? And I just stomp them into the ground. Edgar Markov was a card that people wanted banned after it first came out, and it's not even on this list. Wow. Colorless Ancient Tomb, again, another card that I think is horribly overrated. It's what you're doing with it, right? In Ancient Tomb turn 1, and then I play a Grim Monolith, and then I play this, and then I play that. Okay, if you're doing all that, yeah, Ancient Tomb seems really good, but because some dude plays an Ancient Tomb on turn 5, it's like, who cares? Congratulations, you got a land that's hitting you for damage every turn. I'm sitting over here playing my mono green deck, and I got 20 mana in play. Who cares? Ooh, Ancient Tomb, big deal, right? It all depends what you're doing with these cards. Chrome Mox? Really? I mean, they do have Mox Diamond on here, which is probably far superior. The One Ring, not a surprise there. Everyone hates that card. Tabernacle, thank goodness for that. It's one of the unfunnest cards to play against, so they better not have that in bracket 1. Trinisphere, yeah, Staxy Pieces, Grim Monolith, of course, Mana Vault, of course. They have the fast mana in here, Lion's Eye Diamond. Again, it's kind of fun. Lion's Eye Diamond is another funny one where it's actually a really bad card because you have to discard your whole hand. So unless you have some combo to assemble, it doesn't actually, it's actually a really bad card unless you can abuse it. Right? A lot of these cards fall into that category of it's actually not that great unless you abuse it. But because people mostly are abusing it, that's why people are like, okay, I don't want to see that card, right? If someone casts a Lion's Eye Diamond in a casual commander game, people are going to automatically assume there's some insane thing that's going to be happening. Not necessarily though, right? So, Glacial Chasm, no, are you kidding me? Glacial Chasm? Oh, get out of here. I was totally okay with this list until I saw that. Glacial Chasm is such a casual commander card. I mean, I get it, okay? And when I did the hate list, I had one of my patrons suggest Sphere of Safety because Sphere of Safety is, what they said there is it doesn't allow you to attack. So if you're winning by attacking, which most commander decks are, it just completely shuts your deck off. I literally just reworked my combo deck. My deck of 1,000 Faces used to be my Dragonlord Jamoka deck. Now I think I got Torsten at the helm. I keep changing commanders. I made it more of a lands theme, and I put Glacial Chasm in there. I get it. It does shut off a lot of decks. Okay, so I definitely have, there's another deck and funny enough, I think I have Enlightened Tutor in that deck too. So that's definitely, probably is for sure one of my most powerful decks. So I definitely have one deck, maybe two decks that I cannot bring to bracket 1. How many do you guys have? Again, go through the checklist. There's a lot of really like Smothering Tithe, Trouble in Pairs, Bolus of Citadel. Rhystic Study obviously is the #1 card draw option in the entire format. Cyclonic Rift, one of the most popular cards in the entire format. There's probably a lot of commander decks that don't fit into bracket 1. Now that we've looked over those game changers so everyone knows what we're talking about here going forward, let's continue to look at the brackets. So bracket 2, and they're calling this core, which I imagine for them means most commander decks are going to fall into this category, or this is typical casual commander. The average current pre-constructed deck. Okay, so this is where pre-constructed decks are going to fall into the average. And again, I will point out, Sol Ring for me is the deal breaker in all of these situations. Sol Ring is better than a Mana Vault in a commander game. It's not even close in my opinion, because Mana Vault usually just gets used once and then it just stays tapped forever, whereas Sol Ring just gives you 2 mana every single turn. It's better than a Grim Monolith for the same reason. In fact, I would say it's better than a Mox Diamond. It's better than so many of the cards that are either banned in the format or on their game changers list. So to me, Sol Ring is just, it's so, again, I'm in the ultra casual bracket 1 here. I can still turn 1, and likely we will see it all the time. Turn 1 Sol Ring, Arcane Signet, or Talisman or whatever. Turn 1. Hey, we're playing ultra casual commander here. What? People are still going to groan when they see that, and it will still happen. It's still complete. I don't care how casual your deck is. It still completely unbalances the outcome of a game when someone plays a turn 1 Sol Ring into Arcane Signet, because now they have 4 mana on turn 1, 5 mana on turn 2. They're so far ahead of everybody else. It completely unbalances everything, and then it becomes arch enemy for maybe the rest of the game, right? Does that sound ultra casual? Doesn't to me, but I won't harp on the Sol Ring thing. I'm just pointing it out. It completely breaks all of these rules. That's all I'm saying. So with bracket 2, so no mass land denial again. So no chaining extra turns. No chaining extra turns. Okay, so you can cast an extra turn spell. I can cast a Time Warp, but then I can't just get it back out of the graveyard and do it again and do it again. So no infinite turns. Or almost infinite turns, or taking a really long turn. Again, that's another thing that isn't included here. What if I'm just playing like an eggs deck or one of those decks where I just sit there? For all you who don't know, Second Sunrise was banned in Modern for a long time just because it was really unfun to not only play against, but also watch the person play it. It was so dull. Just, oh, okay, I'll get them all back, and then I'll do it again. And nobody's taking an infinite turn or chaining turns together. They're just taking an infinitely long turn, which is the same thing. The same issue you run in with extra turns is the same thing you're going to get with someone who just takes a really long turn. Again, how do you police that? You can't. It's only a Rule 0 thing. No two card infinite combos, so still doing that. And no game changers, so still doing that. So again, I have a couple of decks that don't fall into even the bracket 2 as well. What is the difference here? There's not a lot of differences. All they're doing is just allowing extra turns, but only a one-shot extra turn. And then the rest is the same. That's kind of silly. There's like almost no difference between bracket 1 and bracket 2 other than the extra turns thing. Everything else is the same, right? That kind of seems like a waste. Okay, so bracket 3 upgraded. So I guess an upgraded precon. Boy, they really expect people to be playing precons a lot with the Commander now, hey? Like, does anyone actually make their own decks anymore? The Commander format's just going to be everyone playing precons. Bracket 3 is an upgraded precon beyond the strength of an average precon deck. They're even referencing each bracket that way. No mass land denial still. No chaining extra turns. So again, you can cast an extra turn, but no chaining it together. Late game 2-card infinite combos. Okay, so what's late game? And I think he said in the stream it's like turn 7, 8, 9. But again, turn 7 and 9 are very different. A lot of people will barely be getting off the ground by turn 7, and the difference between a 7 and 9 is a big deal. It's just very vague. There's just a whole lot of vagueness here. A lot of my decks, and I've said before, my decks can't win before turn 7. I don't even think it's possible. Even if I had a god hand and everything was going my way and no one cast removal, I don't think it's possible for any of my decks to win before turn 7. So late game 2-card infinite combos, and the other issue here is, if you have an infinite combo in your deck, what do? Just hold it in your hand? So I have Kiki-Jiki and Deceiver Exarch, so I'm allowed to have 2-card combos in my deck. I just can't play them until a certain turn. So I'm just holding my I'm sitting there holding my Kiki-Jiki and my Deceiver Exarch in my hand, waiting for, again, I got a counter going down, waiting for the appropriate turn. Okay, it's turn 7, here we go. And then I combo off and win. To me, that's not better at all. You're still doing the same thing. You're basically just patronizing the other players in the game by just, oh, look at you. Isn't that nice? And now I just win the game, right? I don't think that's better. I mean, for me, 2-card combos is either you think it's casual or it's not. I really don't think it is. So that's just me. You're allowed 3 game changers in your deck. So kind of weird that Core 2 doesn't allow any. I mean, why wouldn't you just let them have at least one? I mean, aren't there like cyclonic rifts and precons and stuff like that? Trouble in Pairs? Is that on a precon? Anyway, here you're allowed 3 game changers. So I think the number 2 bracket should say you're allowed 1 game changer. Or maybe 2. Why are we going from 0 to 3? It's kind of a big leap there, I think. So you're allowed 3 essentially really powerful cards in the deck. That's what you're allowed. I'm in a weird place here where again, my one deck where I have Glacial Chasm and Enlightened Tutor, I don't even know where it fits here because it doesn't fit into bracket 2 because I have 2 game changers in the deck, but it also doesn't fit into bracket 3 because now I have to play against guys who have 2-card infinite combos. So, not sure I love that. All right, number 4 is Optimized High Power Commander. It's time to go wild. No restrictions other than the ban list. Oh boy, again, that's a big jump, isn't it? Wow, we basically have 2 brackets here, 1 and 2 that are almost exactly identical. Then there's a huge jump to 3 and then a huge jump to 4. So again, I think there's a lot of decks. A lot of people are going to have troubles finding, and I would say, again, the majority of my decks, a lot of my patrons who play Expropriate and play Cyclonic Rift, where are they going to fit in here? And again, what if you have more than 3 game changers? Let's go back and look at this list again, because this really is crucial, right? Because you're literally counting those cards. I have patrons for sure that would have and again, guys, let's not forget this is a singleton format. Yeah, Cyclonic Rift is a powerful card, but that doesn't mean you're going to draw it every game. By the way, where's Teferi's Protection on here, or Farewell? Neither of those are on here? Jeez, okay. So anyway, I have patrons that they'll have like a Cyclonic Rift and Expropriate, and maybe a Smothering Tithe, and then maybe, let's throw one more in here, like a Jessica's Will in a deck, right? So if you have a Smothering Tithe, Cyclonic Rift, Expropriate, and Jessica's Will in your deck, basically what they're saying is we're feeding you to the wolves. Okay, this is what they're saying here. Because essentially what they're saying is you are in the go wild zone here. You're in the zone where it's no holds barred. There are no restrictions here, right? If you have more than 3 cards on that game changers list, which a whole lot of decks do, a whole lot of decks, good luck. You're basically playing against CEDH decks. And the only difference here between 4 and 5 is what? What's the difference? No restrictions other than the ban list. They look exactly the same. What's the difference? High power with a very competitive and metagame focus. There must be some changes going on here. And if I suspect that, they're going to change the ban list, and there's going to be 2 different ban lists. I almost guarantee, judging by now seeing these brackets as looking exactly the same, what they're going to have is they're going to have a ban list, as I've been saying since the start of our channel. We should have a ban list for CEDH and a ban list for casual. They're going to have a ban list for CEDH where you're going to be allowed to have Time Walk and Ancestral Recall and the Moxes and all of that. Again, there's going to be like 5 cards banned. That's it. Flash is going to be one of them, funny enough. And then the optimized is going to be that's going to be the ban list that includes all of the other brackets. That's how I'm looking at it. They might actually make a ban list for all the brackets. That's possible. The big disappointment for me here, again, other than all the other issues I pointed out, the big issue here, and I really hope they're going to change this, because man, on my Patreon, okay, come join my Patreon. I'll advertise my Patreon here. On my Discord, we play casual games all the time. I mean, yes, some of them are kind of fast. I will point out my mono red Bralin deck, my partner without Bralin deck, was the fastest game I played recently. I ended the game really, really quickly. And again, that's a partner without. It's just Bralin and nobody else. I just happened to get the right amount of cards. I got my Chandra's Spitfire out. I discarded a bunch of cards. My Chandra's Spitfire got real big. And then I cast Chandra's Ignition and almost killed everyone. I didn't quite kill everyone. I killed one guy and then the other 2 guys were almost dead. And then, of course, it wasn't hard to close out the game from there. You know, that just happens sometimes. Again, that's probably the fastest win I've ever gotten. And again, everything worked out. That was probably the fastest win I've ever gotten with one of my decks in a commander game. That was with everything working perfectly. And it still lasted, again, probably 7 or 8 turns. That's a bracket 1 deck. 100% that's a bracket 1 deck. I have none of that stuff in there. I don't have any tutors. And I mean, I don't even have an expedition map. I got nothing in there for tutors. It's a mono red deck, right? So there's a deck it's probably my deck that I would say is not the most powerful. I would say probably my combo deck is my most powerful. That's the deck that can end games the fastest just because the virtue of what my commander is doing. And funny enough, that's easily a ultra casual by this list. And I would say I have a bunch of patrons. All of our games are very casual, but I have a bunch of patrons that fall into the optimized category because all you have to have is more than 3 of those game changers in your deck and you get bumped up to optimized. Oh boy, yeah. I hope there's going to be some changes here because as this looks, I realize it's the beta. I realize they're just throwing this out there to get feedback. Hopefully they're watching my video and I'm giving you guys feedback about some of the issues. That's what I'm doing here in this video. This isn't just complaining. I'm giving feedback and I'm pointing out some of the issues, both for possibly some Wizards of the Coast employee that is watching this video, but also all you guys that are playing the game. You're out there in the wild actually being involved in all of this, some of the issues you might run into. Again, don't get too excited because the problems you think that these brackets might fix might not actually fix at all. Just saying. Okay, be warned. This is a little bit of a warning to everybody. Just keep an open mind, but also be warned that if you're expecting these brackets and for Wizards of the Coast to come in and save the day, and so now every game you play is going to be super fun and super casual, that's not the answer. Okay, the biggest answer has always been Rule 0, try to find a pod you can play with on a regular basis, but ultimately try to have a pregame discussion that will fix some of the issues you might be having. All right, I'll end it there. That's it for today, guys. Thanks for tuning in.